Yeah, tell us the Gen Con thing again. I think that's a good
Just
place
was
to start
magic,
with it.
dude. Like, I was my first one. I've spent my entire life in stand-up comedy, and I'm used to an environment where there's like, if I'm at a club for a weekend and there's a couple of shows going on in different showrooms, there's 3 or 4 comics there and the bar staff, and we're all hanging out. I've done comedy festivals around the world like Edinburgh and the Fringe festivals, and everyone who's doing something there, they usually all wind up in the same place at the end of the night. But Gen Con is so big that there is no one place that can contain everything that's going on. So you're never at all of Gen Con. You're always at some weird little pocket of it that you manage to find yourself in. And for me, I had a really big mission this time around to keep my phone in my pocket as much as possible. I didn't want to be pulling it out every 5 seconds. I was like, no, this has to be for me. I've got to come in here with my eyes and my ears open and try and keep my mouth shut, which I know is ironic given I do stand-up comedy, but just really try to take it in, man. And I'm really glad I did. It was a whirlwind. The highlight for me, I mean, I don't even care how cliche it sounds, man. I managed to get myself a seat at the Critical Role show on the Saturday night, and
nice.
You know what? I don't want to lie about it. I want to give you the full experience I had with that, which was I went out for a huge party that I was not expecting to go to on the Friday, which from what I understand is standard Gen Con fare. It started really wonderfully for me. I did not know anyone, folks. I had no idea who anybody was. And I heard during the day that people went to the like certain hotel bars with spots where people hung out. So I was there with my wife and kids, and I had 2 shows that evening. My own show at the convention, which was really fun, and then I had a Don't Tell comedy show downtown. And I got invited to be on an actual play with other comedians that day.
Cool.
So my day was done when the Don't Tell show was finished at about 10 o'clock. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Don't Tell's game. Don't Tell comedy. Do you guys know what they do? They do comedy, but they don't tell anyone. It's a terrible promotional model.
Oh.
Okay. But it's always at a weird place. So this was in a guitar shop downtown. So I finished that show and I was like, I just want to see what happens if I go to a bar. So I went to a hotel bar and I ordered a drink and I sat down. And here's the key. I made the conscious choice to keep my fucking phone in my pocket. Because I thought if I'm sitting here on my phone, then I'm not here and nothing's going to happen. So I'm sitting in this bar having a drink. This guy comes over and goes, hey, what are you up to? And I said, I'm just sitting having a drink. He says, mind if I sit down? I sat, but there were 5 unbelievably comfortable chairs around a table that no one had taken yet. And I thought, I'm just going to grab one of those because then I'm the owner of 4 comfortable seats, which is prime real estate at Gen Con, apparently, by the way.
Yeah.
That is all about real estate.
All cons are like that. You can find your way to a bar.
And
absolutely.
It was wonderful. This guy sat down. We chatted. He was really cool. He's obviously in the industry and stuff. And he goes, he said, are you going to go see Critical Role? And I said, yeah, I just managed to get a ticket. I'm really excited. And he was like, damn, I wish I could go. You don't have a spare ticket, do you? And I didn't, unfortunately.
And it turns out it was Mark Mercer.
I would love to have taken him. But it wound up in a hotel party that night. It was freaking great. The next morning I woke up, I had a few things to do. And when the evening rolled around, folks, I was exhausted. Steve was tired. And I had to drive. The Critical Role show was 30 minutes outside of where the convention was at. So the convention was in the main convention area in Indianapolis. Yep. Critical Role were at a place called Fisher's Stadium, which was 35 minutes outside of town. And just thinking about that drive, I was going, I don't have this in me. I do not have it in me to go to this fucking show. I don't have it in me to drive 30 minutes. I'm so exhausted from partying last night. Then I went online and I was like, you know what? How long do they do? Because their streams are 3 hours. A 3-hour might be difficult. So I Google it and I go, 5 hours. Are you out of your mind? They're doing 5 hours of Dungeons and Dragons. So I'm
in a sold-out stadium of 13K.
Here's the thing: if you get tickets to a show, you better go. It's the polite thing to do. If you have tickets to a sold-out show and you don't go, honestly, rude. Right? Rude.
You're a bad person at that
Thank you
point.
for agreeing with me on this. I do feel like if you've got the tickets and you don't go and it's sold out, rude. Someone would have taken those tickets happily. There are people who would have paddled.
Listen, Robbie and I have been mediocre performers since 2006. We dream of selling out a show somewhere.
Technically, I started as a mediocre performer in high school, so I have a few more years.
Oh, well, fair enough. Yeah, you got a few years on me.
You gotta go.
Well, all right. Do you have any questions before we jump?
Can I finish my story about going to see Critical Role? You guys asked me what I thought of it. I am giving you the full scope.
Yes, of course. Sorry.
I need to give you all of this pre-context for you to fully understand what I'm saying. What I'm telling you is I was exhausted from partying.
This is the first time we've had raw stuff.
Out from Gen Con celebration on Friday. A 30-minute drive and a 5-hour show in a stadium. Right. And I was like, I want to go, but I don't know if I have the stamina for it. But listen, I'm a good boy. This was the second night. Friday was my first night of the con. It did start on Thursday. Friday was my first night. I went out. I had a belter with dope people. I was drinking and having fun till 4:00 in the morning. But unfortunately, I also had shit to do on Saturday. And Saturday night is when the Critical Role show is happening. And I know you've both been tired before. I know you've both been hungover and jaded. I know you've both been hungover and jaded and spent an entire day doing shit. And I've never seen them live before. And all I'm thinking as I'm driving out there, I'm starting to compromise with myself. I'm going, I'll just stay for the first half. Maybe I can make it through the first 2.5 hours and then I'll go home and then I'll go to bed. And team, let me tell you, at midnight I was there. At the end of the most spellbinding fucking 5 hours I have ever witnessed in my life. These people killed it. I took a photo of the crowd. If you had showed me that crowd, not even 5 years ago, and said, guess what they're watching? The absolute last thing I would have said was 9 people playing Dungeons and Dragons. Not only were they all there were moments, minutes long. I've been doing stand-up comedy my whole life. Do you have any idea how unbelievably fucking hard it is to get 7,500 people to all shut the fuck up for even a minute, for 30 seconds, for 15? And there were 10-minute stretches of what they were doing where just everybody, 7,500 people leaning in, taking in every little second. I was looking at Critical Role fans, the hardcore ones. They're just like, everything's a little morsel. Everything's a little crumb. Nom, 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 nom. They'll just take all of it. And I came away from that experience going, first of all, thank God I got in the car. Secondly, thank God. I mean, the truth is I only needed to be there for the first 30 seconds and then there was no way I was going anywhere. Do you know what I mean? They immediately grabbed me and...
Oh, yeah.
Look, I was there for the Brendan Lee Mulligan announcement. I've been to professional wrestling shows. I've seen pro wrestlers of tremendous levels of fame walk out. What happened in that room when Brendan Lee Mulligan walked out eclipsed anything I've ever seen in professional wrestling. People went berserk. And what a flex to go, you're not going to see them all convention folks except here at this announcement. There he is. That's it. And I know.
That's so good.
So do you guys have any questions for me about the convention? Would probably be.
I love it.
Not to just gush about them, but
I was actually just going to say, the only time that the only time I've ever met Matt Mercer, I was with Robbie at E3.
This was, unfortunately, it was when Critical Role had just started, but I didn't get into it till campaign 2. So he was still just like, the guy who voices McCree in Overwatch.
And so we're like, we got this guy that we got an interview with, Robbie, Callie, can you go over and handle it? And on the way over there, I started getting sick. and I had to excuse myself to the bathroom. I was late coming over to do the interview.
Missed the actual interview.
Missed the actual interview.
A little bit afterwards.
I make it over there right as Matt's getting ready to leave, and literally I just go, "Do not eat the chicken wings here." And that is my one interaction with Matt Mercer.
I'm sure if we ever meet him again, he will not remember.
Yeah, I mean,
hopefully.
If he does, I will actually die on the spot.
I heard so many, this was my encounter with Matt Mercer stories at Gen Con, that I kind of believe he might have hired 3 polymorphs to play him. Because no one can be that omnipresent.
He does literally just go walk around and talk to so many people.
I think what he did at that show was, it was just top notch. The way he held it all together. I don't know when this comes out or anything, but I don't want to spoil anything for you.
Technically, I believe it is out on Beacon, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, so I know they have their own service now, right? Do you guys know how that works?
Come out?
They've got their own service, right?
Oh, yeah. This one...
Yeah.
This one will be out on...
this will be out on September 5th. Okay.
Is when we'll release
what is Beacon that they have?
Yep.
Is it just like their own version of Twitch?
So Beacon, you know how Dimension 20 has Dropout?
Yeah.
Which obviously you can go watch it on YouTube, but you can go to dropout.tv as well. And, all their stuff is there.
Subscribe.
It's basically that. It's their own streaming service.
I like watching millennials do their best. You know what I mean? I love Dropout because I like watching millennials just really give it a go.
I'm gonna put this into the universe for you and manifest on your behalf. I expect to see you on something Dropout or Dimension 20 within the next year, 2 years max.
I think I'd be outside of their price range. I'm talking tens of dollars, guys. You know what I mean? We're talking tens and 20s over here. I don't know what they're paying those kids out in Las Vegas. Where are they? Los Angeles. I don't know what they're paying the kids out in Los Angeles, but
they pay people for auditions.
Wait.
Their custodial staff is on
the fucking brakes right there. They pay people to audition?
Yes, Sam Reich pays you to audition even if they don't select you.
I just appreciate your time. Or whatever. What's his reason?
Nope. I don't know. Look, I don't know what it is. He was on the podcast with
a generous
John Marco
American.
And
a generous American. A generous American. Come on, guys.
Hold on.
It's multi-classing.
There's more.
There's more.
There's more.
Okay, there's more. I'm sorry.
Multi-classing. Dropout does profit sharing, right? The custodial staff in their building is part of the profit sharing plan. So anyone who's cleaned the building and then they record an episode, they get residuals from that episode.
I'm a registered demisexual. I can't fall in love with someone until I develop an emotional attachment to them, and I hate you for the way you've just made me start feeling about Sam. So like that.
Yeah, oh, I love that. My wife is demisexual.
Militant, progressive socialist who's successful in America. That, honestly, is the hottest thing I think I've ever heard anyone say in this country. That is so many levels of sexy. I can't cope.
Dropout is a magical place.
Oh, it sounds like it. They're looking after the janitors.
Well, look, I'm so glad that we got you on just after Gen Con, because part of what we're going to be talking about is just how D&D has kind of is mainstream. So I think this is going to work out perfectly here. All right, so we're going to take 30 seconds of silence so that our producer can cut out any background noise and stuff like that, and then I
thought maybe one of your NPCs had died recently, and that was a bit that you did. And we're going to have 30 seconds of silence for Jub Jub, who perished in our campaign last week. A lot of us were really attached to Jub Jub. All right, guys, bow your heads, please.
It would have been Dirt Boy. Dirt Boy is our go-to NPC.
This is 30 seconds of silence for Dirt Boy.
Welcome into another episode of Cloaks and Capes. I'm your host, Robbie Landis, and with me, as always, my co-host, Callie Scales. We're going to jump right in today because I know I say it every time, but it bears repeating because it's true, especially more so. Oh, maybe not more so, but it's true. All right, I'm excited. I'm very excited to welcome in comedian, D&D fan, and D&D comedian, Steve Wrigley, to our show. Steve, thank you so much for
Thank you. Excuse my environment as well. My studio where I would usually be doing this from, where I have a nice camera, has been taken over by my son at school holidays. So I'm literally outside of my back porch on the webcam. But hi, folks. Thanks for having me.
Hey, priorities, right? So the first thing that we like to do on the show as just like a little bit of a thank you, we didn't tell you too much about what we do besides the podcast. We have a Patreon where we like make magic items and subclasses and species and stuff like that. We've been doing this for like 2 years. And so just as like a little sort of thank you, the same sort of energy as, writing a poem for someone's birthday because you're cheap and you don't have a whole lot of money, is I made you a magic item that literally like 5 minutes before you popped in here, I just finished it up. So
whether you've got like a little stat block for it.
It's called Wrigley's hand cone.
Does it have a little stat block and everything?
Yeah. I got the whole thing.
I'm excited. All right.
Sure do. Yep. It's called Wrigley's hand cone. Wondrous item, rare, requires attunement. I'm a little split on that. I'm not sure if this is too powerful. You two can let me know if you think it should require the attunement or not. But it says an old hand cone used to amplify your voice for large crowds. It's made from tin. Seems like it's been well used and has the words big energy engraved on it in fancy script. You get a +1 bonus to spell attack rolls and your spell save DC when you use this item to cast a spell that requires verbal components. You can cast the spell Tasha's Hideous Laughter through this magic item without expending a spell slot. Once cast, you cannot cast it again this way until the next dawn, unless you expend an appropriate spell slot to do so. And then the final property that it has is called Wrigley's Infectious Laughter. When you cast Tasha's Hideous Laughter and a target fails the saving throw, you can choose another creature within 10 feet of the target to also be affected by the spell. And this effect continues until a creature makes the save. Once a creature has made a saving throw against this property, they are immune to its effects for 24 hours.
Sounds like if I had that as my microphone for stand-up comedy, I'd be able to go out, use it, get one really big laugh, and go, all right, folks, that's it till a long rest. There's your one laugh. You get one at the show. But this has been expended now, so I need to go spend 8 hours sleeping while the two elves in the party just each take half a shift. Then we'll come back for another laugh tomorrow.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, so many people play characters with the trance ability that you can never do anything real sinister on a long rest because there's always like at least half of the party that's awake. Like, how do you want to take watches? Well, after 4 hours, we're basically all up anyway. Yeah, sure.
I play a Warforged. I don't actually have to sleep.
Oh,
I'm a Reborn.
Christ.
I also don't have
please.
to sleep. Cool. I had a wizard one time who like every night they would just be like, oh, I'm going to cast Mordenkainen's dome or whatever it is, tiny hut around him. So nothing can bother us in our sleep. And I'm like, cool. Okay, I guess just nothing happens overnight then.
Oh,
Great.
you can do
Love
fun
it.
stuff with a tiny hut. Don't forget,
Callie.
the tiny hut is impenetrable. The area around the tiny hut, you can do stuff with that, right? They can all go to sleep and wake up, and outside is now gone. You're in a cage floating in the middle of a void. A giant steel cage surrounds your tiny hut.
Have one.
The earth is not there anymore. And as you look out through the open flap, all you see is the infinite void stretching beyond you. And then let them figure out how they're getting out of there.
Oh, I love that.
You don't even, as a DM, you don't even need a plan. You don't even need to know where you're going with that. Just put them in the void and then sit back and listen to what their paranoid little brains concoct. One of them goes, what if we're inside the bag of holding? And then you as the DM go, what if they are inside the bag of holding?
Just let them answer it for you. Exactly.
Yeah. I have nothing written about where you are. You guys are going to determine it. I had one where they used the tiny hut overnight. And so in the night, I had a pack of werewolves come in, obviously not seeing them, and just start making their camp right there on top of them. And so like they're getting towards the end of like the 8 hours of the tiny hut and going, this thing's just going to disappear in a few minutes here, and there's still like a literal like pack of werewolves that are sleeping all around us.
Breakfast in bed, right?
I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
they all wake up in the morning and the tiny hut starts shrinking. You don't even, as a DM, need to know how it's being shrunk. One of your gamers is going to go, oh, maybe it's this happening. And then you just go, perfect, there we go. He's figured it out straight away. But
You're like, yeah,
tiny
you're
hut
so
is
smart.
shrinking.
Maybe it's the little-known goddess of shrinking tiny
That
huts.
was a
Like,
thing,
oh,
but
you know, that was a thing. Yes,
Cassandra,
absolutely it
the
is.
little-known goddess of shrinking tiny huts.
So those of you who are listening, watching may recognize Steve. I stumbled across Steve on TikTok doing some stand-up, doing a little bit of crowd work, which is like half of my For You page. I love watching people do crowd work. And you caught my attention, not just because you were funny, but because you were talking about Dungeons and Dragons. And lately, you've been doing a lot more of that. And you know, it used to be that you'd get bullied for playing D&D, you know, but it's everywhere now. Celebrities play it. We obviously still get bullied. Horrible people are always going to exist, but now they just happen to play with you. That's a whole different topic. But I was wondering what
Now the
your
bully is
takes
at the
are
table.
on how did this happen? What happened?
No, I mean, you're so right. That's why I'm laughing.
We have whole Reddits dedicated to the red flags, right?
What was your question? Sorry.
So yeah, what happened? How did we get here? How did we go from D&D being sort of the nerdy thing to do? And obviously we still consider it nerdy, but nerds are everywhere now. It's in the mainstream. How did that happen? What do you think is the moment you
I'll give you the
noticed
most
it had entered the
controversial
mainstream?
answer I can in the Dungeons and Dragons space. It's because 5th edition is a good game system.
Please.
All right.
Hot take.
You know what? I feel like there are going to simultaneously be about a million people who agree and a million people who hate that take.
See, I feel like every time someone tells me they're going to give me a hot take, they don't. They give me a true take that some people just don't like.
No, but I get it, right? Like 5th edition is, whether you want to call it a good game system or not, it's an approachable game system is what it is. It is easy to pick it up and learn it. Unlike, say, 4E, it wasn't, at least at one time, completely bloated out the wazoo like 3.5. You don't have to learn THAC0 like 2.0. It is easy to sit down and learn to play 5e.
What I can do as a dungeon master in 5th edition is, you know, if I have some people who want to play Dungeons and Dragons and there's two who don't really know how it works, I can just say to them, here's your character sheet, like, just we'll talk about your character a little bit and we'll talk about who you are. Don't worry about the rules. We'll talk about who you are. And then you just tell me what you want to do. Make a choice. And then I'll tell you what particular rule or dice roll needs to be employed in order for us to figure out what happens next. But you don't need to sit there and go, oh, I need to make a this or I need to do a that. Just tell me what you want to do. What does Bridget, the half-elf bard, want to do right now in this situation? You know, the person's on the train tracks, the train is coming. What do you tell me what you want to do? And then figure out with them. And once you've done 4 or 5 of those, they do start looking at their character sheet and going, oh, that means I have this, and I can do this too. And if you play with that player right in the first half of their first game, by the time you get to the end of that game, they'll be going, I see on my character sheet here, it says I have something called silvery barbs. Can I do that now? And you as the DM both feel
And that's like, okay, game's over. Go find a new
You
group.
feel excruciating pain, but also tremendous pride at the same time, where you go, there you go, little one, you know, welcome. You've got the disease now.
Can I share a story? Because this just happened to me last night. I was running the final session of my campaign that I've been running for a while, 44 episodes. We're running the final session last night. And one of my players who was playing a druid, they were learning how to play a druid, because druid can be a complicated class to learn. And so I held their hand a lot of the way through the campaign. Yes. And last night, I had a moment where our warlock is out of spell slots, but they really need to get one back. And so I had this idea of like, if anyone in the party wants to voluntarily drop to 0 HP to give their essence to this warlock and let them use a pack spell slot, I'll allow it. And she goes, hey, wait, could I do it? Because I'm in wild shape form, and when I hit 0 HP, don't I just turn back into my normal form? And I sat there like, oh, you waited 44 episodes to figure out how to play your class just in time to screw me?
That's why you should have went to 2024 version, and they can't do that.
I find the 2024.
I spent 10 minutes last night making
I was going to say,
bard.
you just did
Go
the
ahead.
2024 version, and honestly, I will say, as an old man, I find the 2024, 2014 two versions of 5e thing to be just the single most ludicrous thing to take place in Dungeons and Dragons since it became a corporately owned enterprise. Like, all they did was slightly homebrew some stuff the same way every single person who picked up D&D 5th edition 2014 wound up molding it into a version of Dungeons and Dragons that works for them and their table. It's literally the first fucking rule in the book to do that, right? And they went, oh, we're just gonna here's a like
There's your hot
Bastions
take.
could have just been a little module that they put out that plugs into 5th edition. But like it was, to me, such a bold-faced attempt to just try and go. They were. It feels like they were trying to manipulate the subscription model. The fact that all of the 2014 books that I bought on D&D Beyond didn't automatically just upgrade to the new rule set. You know what I mean? Is just so. Where you go, what for what, guys? A couple of pages and some stuff's been taken out. Grappling is now an unarmed strike. Dude, half the tables I'm at where we're playing the 2024 rules, guess what rules we're really playing? We've homebrewed it back to the 2014 rule book, dude. Like, we've said so many things where we've gone, oh yeah, we'll take that over. I mean, what did they put in? Healing potion is now a bonus action. We're all doing that anyway, dude. We didn't need you to sell us a book for us to be able to do that. We're doing that. Like, it made it so confusing, so overcomplicated. People's digital sets, like those of us that live and die by the quality of our virtual tabletop group, like everything in Roll20 was a mess. Everything in Foundry was a mess. You had to, this book comes out, so all of your Foundry stuff, your player's handbook's there, but the frickin' monster manual's not come in yet. So all of your monsters are still using 2014 rules. Your players are using 2024 rules. There was a period of like 6 weeks where running your campaign on VTT was just, if you were a DM, it was goddamn unbearable. And if you were a player, it was incredibly difficult. And that's where you, again, look at Wizards of the Coast and go, you don't know us. If you think that there's 6 weeks where we can all just sort of lay out and not do this thing that we need to do, you're out of your mind. And to make it, we're trying to, they put too much admin back at the table, and for me, that's just a disastrous maneuver.
Yeah, Callie came up with the bright idea because, you know, we created all these subclasses. We're getting ready to put out a book here within the year sometime. And Callie was like, look, the DMG comes out in like 2.5 months. Let's do one subclass for everything and, you know, for each of the classes. And then we can start promoting it at the same time, sort of ride off of, you know, everyone being excited or hating it. And then so when it did, and we looked at our subclasses that we have and thought it would be an easy update, and we're like, oh no, they didn't change necessarily a whole lot, but the fact that they went through and was like, you know what, anything that's a game term, rage, advantage, magic action, those are all capitalized now. And then, you know, as homebrew is having to go back now and try to update all of those things. It was
a pointless exercise, in my opinion. Like, you know, for me, what I would have been doing if I was Wizards is I would have been looking back at the OGL scandal, and I would have gone, we should just freshen everything up for everyone, and we should just like sort of pay for that and just make the experience that we're giving people more premium and more user-friendly as a way of kind of apologizing for thinking that we, like, I have a reel about it. A joke about it, about how, like, I find it just hilarious that Wizards of the Coast were like, we have to figure out how to get more money out of Dungeons and Dragons players. Like, getting money out of us is some issue. Like, when has that ever been a problem? We will literally buy 6 versions of the same thing.
Wait, each group only buys one book and shares it?
Exactly. Dude.
It blows my mind because, like, they really went the worst of both worlds, where they're like, no, we don't have the balls to just call it 6.0 and do a fully new edition, because it's not. And so they tried to make it, and they tried to go, it's backwards compatible. Have you tried to run a game where people are doing 2014 and 2024 stuff? It's a nightmare.
Sucks.
It sucks.
It sucks so much. And like I said, when you really think about it, all this remaster 2024 version is just someone else's homebrew slapped onto D&D 5th edition, the 2014 book. Like, they could have put out Bastions as a solo thing. Here's how you can run, doing these. This is kind of cool. They could have put the Grey March campaign setting out as a really dope full book campaign setting for just the D&D that we've all been playing. And just honestly, like I had VTT players who I do stuff on Start Playing Games, and I don't run mini games now because I'm really busy doing stand up, but I love running games for new people. But I had maybe like 4 new players just before that remaster happened, and they'd all just got used to playing D&D and Foundry, and then the rule changes came out and everything was a hot mess. And like, these were people who were really enjoying it but doing pay to play, but they all just were like, oh, we'll come back when this is like working properly. Do you know what I mean? When this is fixed.
Yeah.
And they still could have got a bunch of money because they could have taken everything from, Tasha's, from multi, all that stuff that's those incremental changes in between, taken some of the changes you want to make now, like the Paladin Smite stuff was a good change. Callie almost quit her Paladin over it, but
dude,
she
we
agrees
buy
now.
so many books.
Yeah, it works. But you could have just condensed all of that into, the new updated, book, so that way new players coming in don't have to buy, the 3 set and then Tasha's and then, Big B's Giants or whatever it is.
It exhausts me. It's like, dude, we have enough companies squeezing the life out of us for our daily necessities. The place that we're coming to for fun, if you fucking guys start doing it, then you can go fuck yourselves, man. Like, honestly, you're the place that
Daggerhound just came out. We're ready.
Coast, you live at our behest. It's not the other way around. We can play your shit for free. We can. We do not need you. You cannot copyright, roll a dice, and add a number. That is not something you can ever own. You idiot.
Correct.
We love Dungeons and Dragons so much that honestly, like when it comes to spending money, we buy books and we don't even read them. They could put out a book called The Amazing Adventure of Alakazar, and the entire thing is 300 blank pages, and it would be 3 months after it's released before anyone even noticed. Someone would finally open it and go onto Reddit and go, guys, are your pages all blank? Oh my God, mine too,
Or we like just book. My copy.
We like book.
No, I tell you, what gets me is that with 2024, they then rebroke some of the things that they fixed in Tasha's, where they're like, all right, in Tasha's, fine. Your stat bonuses are no longer tied to your species. You can just pick a +2 and a +1, go. And then in 2024, they're like, okay, now it's tied to your background, and your background gives you specific ones you can pick. You didn't learn anything. Stop limiting us on that kind of thing. No one likes it.
I know. It's just silly. I feel like the worst thing that you can do when dealing with Dungeons and Dragons players is become the evil, scum-sucking, greedy big bad yourself, Especially since there are so many other options.
Your game literally trains us to resist you. I watched
Critical Rolecast play Daggerheart, and honestly, that was also pretty entertaining. Like, there's so many games. I play Pathfinder 2nd Edition mostly, to be honest. I'm kind of into that hardcore, crunchy, grindy stuff, but there are other game systems, and just the idea that you would come into this space and operate on anything other than kind of goodwill and grace towards the community that supports you is just you don't know us. Do you know what I mean? If you're doing that, you just don't know who we are and how we work.
It's almost like they're the company that makes Magic the Gathering. Oh, wait.
Oh, please don't get me started on that. All right, let's pull this back into some comedy stuff. Put the focus back on Steve. Steve, I'm curious how the sort of pivot and shift to doing D&D as a routine, as crowd work happened. Was it? It probably wasn't something that you expected. Was it ever something you thought about trying before, given how big?
Yep. So the only reason any of this is happening, this is the most 2025 sort of the zeitgeist of our industry as far as entertainment is concerned. Is like I love Dungeons and Dragons, and have always wanted to like try some stuff. I always had a few ideas for things, but you know, getting stuff to work. If you want a whole room full of people to laugh at something, it has to be sort of in the zeitgeist at least of that room. People all need to know about it, you know. So everyone knows what the Epstein list is, right? So it's really, you can make a lot of really good jokes around that people have to think to get to. And I am very fortunate to be good friends with Rhys Darby, who's another comedian from New Zealand. And when he tours around, he takes me with him as his feature act. And earlier this year, we were doing a tour of some comedy clubs. We did Austin, Texas. We did Brooklyn. We did Philly. We did Raleigh. It was really fun. And we were in Austin, and it's a real tech city, a real nerd city. And I had gone out to turn my camera on before the show started. And when I went out, I saw lots of Dungeons and Dragons t-shirts. Either they were wearing, I was like, either these guys are all wearing Dungeons and Dragons t-shirts or they're really into polyhedral shapes. It's one of those two. Could just be a really big like Pentagon community here in Austin. I don't know, but you know.
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah,
a lot of math nerds down there. I get it.
I just was like, oh, maybe this will be it. And I like being silly and playful, and I always had this idea of going out and going, are there anyone here play Dungeons and Dragons, and just try and get some excitement out of Dungeons and Dragons players in the room. And then once I'd pulled that attention to the stage, go, anyone of you play a rogue, and then just let them make any sound. And I can then, as the DM, I've lured them into my trap, and I can go, well, you're a pretty terrible rogue. And I always just thought it'd be fun. I was really just...
Look, there's a reason we also take charisma, okay? There's a reason.
I went out and did the bigger of the clips that I have, and it was a real surprise because I like... The vibe in the room was amazing. I say that, and 70 to 80% of the room all laugh. And not to like pull this apart too much and get too into the like gory theater mechanics of it all, but in order for that many people in a room to laugh at that, specifically that turn of phrase, specifically any rogues here, one person goes, woo, and I go, well, you're not very good. For them all to immediately know exactly what I'm saying, and for that to turn itself into spontaneous laughter, every single person in that room needs to genuinely and authentically love and exist in the Dungeons and Dragons space. They can't be someone with a passing knowledge of it. They have to be someone who really understands the deep memes, the deep lore, the deep connection that it has. And when they all laughed, I saw a bunch of people look around the room and start clocking how many of them there were. And then I just went on like a 4-minute riff where I felt really fortunate because I was able to just kind of keep building and building on that momentum and that excitement of all of us going, wait, this is happening, this is working. We're doing stand-up comedy about Dungeons and Dragons right now. And I was joking about how there's like 6 people in this room who have no idea what's going on, but fuck them, the show's not for them anymore, you know what I mean? And it was real rock and roll, it was a real blast.
Yes.
And the next day I was like, I'm just going to post this clip because I think it's funny. Like, you know, like every other comedian, it's like you just fire stuff out of the cannon and see what you can get. So I was like, I'll post this clip and I'll see what happens. I was with Rhys and Raleigh, and I posted it. We walked up the road to go to a cafe. We got into the cafe, and he goes, he knows that after I post a clip, I'm like, I always want to look and see if, usually it's like I'd have like maybe 20, 30 people would like it initially. It would land somewhere around a couple hundred when it's finished its life cycle, and it was kind of fun. And I go,
yep.
Nothing. Like it's not, oh, that's weird. It's been up for like an hour and it hasn't done anything. But I then realized after the fact when my friend told me that because it was just skyrocketing to the moon, Insta had not compiled any stats yet because there was so much going on. Because then 10 minutes later I checked it and I was like, like 80,000 people have seen it in 40 minutes. And I've got like 4,000 new followers like now, you know. And then it kind of kept going. And I said to Reese was like, oh, well, you've got to post more. And I said, I think I've got one other clip from that show that's good, but we've got shows in Brooklyn tomorrow. So I'm just going to try and do the same thing. I'll go out, I'll do my set, I'll find a way to slide 5 minutes of Dungeons and Dragons stuff in. And if there's a few people in the room, I'll make it work. If there's heaps of people in the room, I'll make it work. But I've got to, this is fun. I want to see where I wind up with this. And luckily, the show in Brooklyn, I had a guy who missed his session to be at that show, which you just could not ask for a more perfect thing when you're doing jokes about Dungeons and Dragons to go, I've got a guy who bailed on the session here now that I can do crowd work about. I really do feel like things were aligning because it was not a plan. It was never. I never sat down and went, I am going to do stand-up comedy about Dungeons and Dragons. What happened was I did it. I didn't know what was going to happen. I posted it. I didn't expect anything to come of it. But when it did, I went, it's like when the GM goes, there's 4 doors. One of them's open and there's gold literally shining on the other side of it, and the other ones you're not sure. And you've just kind of got to go, I don't actually think this is a trap. I think there's something on the other side of this if I just go for it. And so it might actually just be gold, And and then we had enough shows left in that run where I could go out every night and just try and sneak 5 minutes in. I still had to do my job. I'm opening for Reese, and so I can't go out and just go, anyone here play D&D, and then do a show that is not for everyone who's there, because I am warming the crowd up for him. But I could sneak 5-10 minutes in and had heaps of fun with that, and just was able to, every time I posted a clip, if it was bad, it was still better than anything.
Don't want to come across as too, don't want to come across too thirsty here or anything like that. But after when I had found your clip, there was definitely a week period where every morning I was looking can you post another one? So that I could send it to everybody.
That's kind of interesting because I don't think about that. My problem, I had a content problem because I got to the end of that run. And that was touring comedy clubs. And there's a huge difference between comedy clubs and big theaters. Because we went to New Zealand and Australia, and I was like, I'm going to be able to get a bunch more clips, right? This is going to be great. We're doing 15 shows over 20 days in New Zealand, Australia. This was the tour we went on after this one. So I do this tour, I get a bunch of clips. I've got maybe 8 or 9 total that are worth putting out. I don't want to put anything out that's not something I would stand behind, or that I go, I could do a better version of that later or whatever, but some fun pieces of crowd work. But I'm out, I don't have any more. But the club in Austin, Texas, where the first clip came from, they had already agreed to have me back. And I said, look, people are watching my stuff now. Please just book me on at least one show so I can point people to that, while people are engaging with the content, because I need to be able to make more. And, it really is you need the clips to get the followers to get booked to get the shows, but you need to get the shows booked to film the clips to get the followers to book the shows to get the clips to build the followers. You know what I mean? One needs the other.
Yeah.
Correct. And I was like,
it's a vicious cycle.
I literally begged them. I was like, dude, I'm at my ignition point. I can feel it. If I can go out there and have an hour where it's my crowd, I don't have any obligations to other performers who are on the lineup or anything like that I need to really worry about. And I can just go crazy and just pop the cork on talking about D&D for an hour. That'd be great. So I got a room at the club in Austin. And when I got back from this New Zealand and Australian tour, I'd been trying to run some D&D stuff in the larger theatre areas, but we were doing rural Australia, and literally it would be, 1,200 people and not a single person has ever played Dungeons and Dragons. These are rural, blue-collar drinking Australians who would probably beat me up if they saw me in a T-shirt that said Dungeons and Dragons. But I came back and I was able to go do that show in Austin. I had the most amazing crowd you could ask for. And I also was booked 2 weeks later in Philadelphia to do a show there. And I was really fortunate because between those 2 shows, I was like, right, if I put out 1 or 2 clips a week, I've got enough to get me through the next 4 months while we were touring. Oh no, it was 2 months. The next 2 months while I'm touring the UK with Reese, and then I get back and I go to Gen Con and I'll have another show that I can film. So, it was that head game of going, I've got to like bank this material, and I've got to be careful how I tease it out. Like I can't dump it all at once because I want to like make sure that I can kind of keep this fan base that I found alive until I get to Gen Con. And luckily for me, it's been pretty good. Like everyone's been really supportive. My Gen Con shows sold out. They were amazing. But I don't think any of this stuff happens if D&D is not like you were asking about like D&D being popular and where its popularity is. This whole journey that I've been on, for me, the kernel of it was like all these people in this room in a comedy club in Austin, Texas in the United States all love D&D so much that this can happen. And then I went to Brooklyn and the same thing happened. And then I went to Philly and Philly was nuts. And when I went back to Philly to do my matinee show, it was the wildest crowd I'd had so far. Like people were just yelling stuff out about their characters and it was a real fun atmosphere. Yeah, so you know, it's so cool that it is enough in the world right now that yeah, people seem to be into it. I don't know.
And think just so much that you just happen to notice that a bunch of people were wearing D&D themed shirts that night. Like, how different is it if they're not happening to wear those shirts?
The fact that they put up a flag.
Night?
Do you know what I mean? They were like, I'm going to set up a signal flare, just a little one. But if a group of them hadn't have done that, I would never have gone, oh, maybe I should try this D&D material I've been thinking about tonight. And then I'm not where I am. And the show that I'm working on is really fun. It's a mixture of crowd work and observations of our culture. Like one of the things that's been really eye-opening about writing the show is realizing that writing an hour of stand-up is normally a tremendous struggle. The number of things that you can talk about when you're doing this are as infinite as the choices in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. Our culture is just so rich in discussion and like I feel like there's such a big drive for consideration and courtesy in our culture. And usually when you find that kind of an environment, like that's why like a lot of political comedians tend to be like left leaning, because whenever you kind of marry the unpleasant with a culture that really wants consideration, commitment, kindness, compassion, there are so many things that you can just pull out into the light. And it's, in my experience, always been really funny to do that and do it in a funny way. And so for me, like, I'm so excited about like possibly the next, God knows how long. I don't think I can put a time limit on it. Exploring this, like people were like, are you gonna do an hour special about D&D stand-up? And I said, honestly, I actually think I've already done 5. Like each show is completely different from the last one that I did. Like there's no, I have some bits of material that I'm working on that I use because it's part of the craft that I enjoy, but mostly it's just been like there was one I had at Gen Con, Rowan. I'm just going to go up and talk about how hard it is how funny it is that like there are people out there looking for a relationship. They're like, I'm trying to find somebody who will commit to something. And D&D players are like, you're only trying to find one. I'm trying to find 6, dude. I'm like, I'm literally starting a polycule over here. This is hard. Like I need 6 people to agree to what I'm doing. And you know,
as a pro DM, I will tell you, I have watched many a polycule start, and it does happen in just the most interesting ways.
You had 3 in your last campaign, didn't you?
I did, yeah. We had 3 separate polycules in my last campaign. It was amazing. But I have 2 things that I have to put out there about that. One, you mentioned compassion in what you do and being kind of left-leaning. And I've always learned as a performer, you should always punch up. You should never punch down. And that is just, I think, intrinsic to the idea of being compassionate in what you do.
What punching up?
And the other eyes I have to put out there. I was going to say the other I have to put out there is, I mean, you're not coming to Detroit at any point, are you?
I
certainly love
trying to get into Detroit. So like, I love being like really open and honest about things and how they work, right? Like, and I know in the comedy industry, people always want to kind of give this facade that like, oh yeah, this is like, I'm getting this and I'm getting that. Getting booked is hard. It is hard to get booked. Like you guys are both like at the start of this, like, oh, it's impressive. You've got 25,000 followers, but let me tell you, that doesn't even still hold a tremendous amount of water in this space, you know? And what I am trying to do is go to these people and go, no, look, like this, there's a whole community here that will love this if I bring it to their town. Like they will want to come out. They don't even necessarily just want to come out and see me. They want to come out and see each other. Any excuse for them all to just be in the same place and wear their cool shit is something that these people are 100% down for. And I think to get into a room together and have a laugh about it, and, you know, like I say, for me, this is a process, and I'm still figuring out exactly what I want this to feel like when I'm in front of people doing stand-up about D&D, you know. And I actually ran into a guy today who was a local D&D guy. I only found this out because I met him and I was talking to him, and he didn't know me. And he goes, "Oh, what do you mean you do comedy about D&D?" Like, he didn't understand that I was doing it at Gen Con because he thought that I'd gone to Gen Con and was going up there and going, "Look at you nerds, look at you losers." And I said, that's such a tragic indictment on what so many American men think comedy is, right? That like comedy is pointing at someone and go,
Yeah.
But I find it really interesting that you talk about like the idea of punching up and punching down, because I also think that it's really important to be thoughtful about when you are actually seeing that happen and when you aren't. And I think that is where we really just shoot ourselves in the foot as leftists, especially in the United States, where everyone is so radicalized in any direction. Is like, you might see a technical punch down happening on the surface, on the words, but is there an intentional one happening, and what is the read? And like, you know, you need to correct.
Media literacy is important.
Knowing what is actually people getting tremendously upset at what people say too quickly is literally, in my opinion, why we are here, right? And I am a comedian who really likes to play with fire. I like to skirt around what is and isn't appropriate. And I think everyone else does too, because we're all trying to figure out the line. And comedy about how impossible it is to do a tightrope walk along that line, to me, it's the funniest part of the human experience. We all want to be the good guy, and we've all fucked it up before we've had our first cup of coffee, you know?
Oh yeah. But like, one of my favorite comedians of all time is Anthony Jeselnik, who says horrific things, just some of the most unbelievably horrific things. He was talking on a podcast, I think he was talking with Daniel Tosh about this, who also says a lot of horrific things. And they said, you know, I'm so tired of hearing comedians go, I can't say anything anymore. No, you can. You just have to be funny. Like,
you can
that's
say
that's
whatever
the bit.
you want. There are just consequences depending. And like, for you, those consequences have been, you didn't write a joke. You just went up and said something horribly sexist or horribly racist, and then there were consequences for that.
Yeah.
Whereas a comedian who has a skill set, who knows what he's doing, and goes, I want to pull this on this thread with this crowd, and I want them to go where I want them to go. They're going to get what their craft allows them to elicit out of their audience. You know. Yeah. No. Yeah, you've nailed it. It's the people complaining about. Yeah, you just got to be funny. It just has to be fun. It actually, more importantly, it has to be fun. What is happening has to be enjoyable. Like, I'll go back to the Critical Role experience that I had, because, you know, the whole thing felt like a 5-hour long warm hug, and whatever conversations those people have had as performers to go, how do we make sure we're communicating what we're doing the way that we want to? How do we behave with each other when we're out there? How do we behave with each other at the table? What do we do? All the kindness, compassion, and consideration that they've given each other to do the best version of what they do, honestly, creates an environment that is just so, it's like a magic spell of comfort, just sitting there and watching that happen. And, you know, it doesn't have to be snuggles and hugs. That's not what I mean. Like, because there were points where people are going down, people are dying, horrible stuff's happening. There's emotion, there's high drama, there's shock, there's awe, like there's everything that you could want. But it's all being done with the intention of it being enjoyable for the person who's there, right? I think comedy, theater, all of it, it's like sex. If you're only doing it for yourself, there's one person there having a horrible fucking time, right?
Yes. Well, I think in the most roundabout way possible, we've come back around to the original question of why has D&D finally made it into the mainstream? And because at the end of the day, it's exactly that. D&D is our experience of being with people and connecting with people and telling stories in traditions that have gone back since, ancient Greek times all the way back to cave paintings on the walls. We as humans are social creatures, and we are trying to share our lived experiences with one another, and D&D is a wonderful vessel for that. And now it's starting to catch on in a bigger mainstream way.
Dimension 20 sold out Madison Square Gardens, right? So, back to your point about how, you're trying to convince people that, like, people will come to this show that don't normally get shows like this. They will turn up because they don't usually get the opportunities to see the things that represent their interests. So not only are they going to show up, but like they are going to be so passionate about it, right? When was the last time that a Critical Role or Dimension 20 show didn't sell out almost instantly?
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned earlier having to like convince people to let you do these shows and talk about D&D and whatnot on there. Robbie and I, in a past life, we did a esports radio show, like sports talk radio for esports. So we had to convince like 80-year-old radio producers to let us talk about video games on their airwaves. And believe me when I tell you, I get the struggle.
So with all this popularity to D&D, now I don't think we've asked you this yet, Steve. How long have you been playing D&D for? What edition did you start with?
I played first edition when I was really young in the school library. I cannot remember it. I just remember lots of tables. I remember lots of sheets, lots of math, but I had a fresh young brain, and so did my friends, and we were really just enjoying tearing that whole system apart. And then took a big break from it for a long time, and then got back into it probably just before I left New Zealand for the States. So just over 10 years ago, I picked up a couple of books, and then when 5th edition properly came out, I picked all of that up, and then during the pandemic, I just went hammer and tongs. I had a bunch of comedians who weren't doing anything, had a bunch of D&D games going. I discovered Roll20, and yeah, really, that it's always been in my life, but I think it really was the pandemic that reignited my desire to just play it all the frickin' time.
So in the past 10 years, things like Stranger Things, Dimension 20, Critical Role, Baldur's Gate, how do you think that has changed? Like how has D&D changed because of the result of this newfound popularity?
I think one of the best things about it and how it has it's such an interesting question to ask, like, how has Dungeons & Dragons changed? Because you're talking about an experience that is so unique to every table it takes place at, right? Like, there really never has been a Dungeons & Dragons experience that you could point to and go, this is it, this is what it is. Because even if you're a seasoned Dungeons & Dragons player, when someone else starts telling you about their campaign, half the time you're like, dude, I'm so lost. I know that you have a thing in your head that you're telling me. I can't follow any of it. But I do know, because of my own experience, I know what it means to you. Like, I know what this world means to you, and I know how important it is. I know how angry you are when Jared can't make the session, I get it.
Because he's off seeing some comedian.
I do think, though, what has changed is that for people who didn't play Dungeons & Dragons because they didn't know how it worked, right? Like, I think that was the number one barrier to entry, is people would just be like, I can't even begin to fathom how that happens, right? If you have no idea about Dungeons & Dragons at all, and you look at it from the outside, from a big picture view, you're like, I could never figure that out. I do not know what's going on. Because people are making actual plays now and there's so much content out there, there are things people can watch. And by watching someone else do it first, you go, oh, I see what this is now. Oh, I would really enjoy doing that. I would really enjoy having that experience that I'm seeing other people have. And I think that's what is bringing more and more people to the table is instead of having to go to the table to discover what the experience is, they're having the experience and then going, oh, I need to go out and find a table that I can sit at. I need to go and do this. I mean, I guarantee you every person who's ever listened to more than 3 or 4 episodes of Critical Role or watched Dimension 20 has bare minimum gone to their local game store a couple of times to sit in for a game on a Sunday afternoon or whatever. Rolled up a little character sheet and gone to have that experience, you know? So, yeah, I think that's the biggest way it's changed.
I think Yeah, Steve, I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't actually think D&D or the games and the tables that existed have changed all that much. I think all that's changed is there's so many new people coming into it, each with their own ideas of what they want to get out of it or of the stories that they want to tell with it, that there are just a bunch of new tables that are different experiences from what the old heads used to have, right? Because you can still find those tables that are hardcore dungeon crawls where, you know, you're going to burn through 3 or 4 characters in a campaign. Like, those still exist out there. I think there's just so many new people coming in who have a more modern, like, Critical Role-esque idea of what storytelling in D&D can be, that those tables are now becoming very common.
Realizing what the objective is, right? Like, you get asked so much, how do you win D&D? And you're like, I mean, the answer
Making
used
your
to be you
DM double
can't,
face
but
palm.
I do think the answer is, how do you win D&D? I think the answer is you play it in front of 7,500 people at a sold-out stadium. I think if you do that, you are legitimately allowed to say, it's us, by the way, we won Dungeons and Dragons. But
you know, I think that's fascinating too, because I was just on a panel talking about actual plays versus home games and how they are very different, because the big difference is when you're doing an actual play or your Critical Role and you're on the stage, you're effectively all the actors in it at this point, and your audience is literally an audience out there, whereas for the home game, your other players at the table and your group of close friends, those are the audience. So you're both an actor and audience at the same time. And I think there's a different mindset that goes into running those two different kinds of things. So I think one of my favorite
things about playing Dungeons and Dragons at a table, playing a private game, let's call it, playing a game that you just play for you and your friends, is it is the one thing the internet can't ruin, right? Nowadays, you watch a TV show, you go, man, that was a great episode, but I wonder if I'm right in my assessment of how great it was. Let me go to the internet and ask it how I should feel, right? I grew up, I mean, dude, I remember walking out of the movie theater and walking out of The Matrix, right? With my best buddies, we would all go see the movie together. We walk out of The Matrix, we look at each other, we talk about how awesome it is. We went to the Burger King, we sat there and parked up on the free refills for 4 hours until they kicked us out. You know, 17 years old, just Burger King's where we hang out till 2 a.m. Talking about the movie. Not once did any of us go, hey, I wonder what every other person in the world thinks about this. Right? That was not there in 1997. It didn't exist. Just the concept. We weren't going, God, I wish we could talk about this with everyone. It wasn't a thing we wanted. It wasn't something that we ever asked anyone to give us. And Dungeons and Dragons is the only place, if you have your own game at your own table, it's the only place where you literally have to walk out and go, that was really fun and I'm enjoying it and I like what's happening, and there's nowhere you can go to have someone go, well, but technically it's 15 minutes and there was this thing that happened and there's no reason for anyone to be enjoying that, and honestly they didn't cast a hot enough 14-year-old girl to play the lead. You know, like you don't have any of those people ruining your experience with something you enjoy.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
I only laugh so I don't cry.
I'm only making the joke. Again, they're there, and that's
all right.
You know, we were talking about like inappropriateness and punching up. Like, we have to be able to point at this weird thing that's happening over here. All these guys going, how could you? Could you cast them in that role?
Well, speaking of the internet, something that we like to do here at the end of the show, as we get near the end of the show, not that we haven't been having fun yet,
believe
but
you're
having
kicking
a
me
little
out.
bit more fun, is we ask our audience to send in stories, am I the asshole type stories,
Okay.
but with the caveat that these are from their character's
Oh, jeez.
perspective.
Then, as a forever DM, the answer
So
to all of
we
them
have
is
a few
yes.
of them
What's
here.
next? Are these characters who sit at a Dungeons and Dragons
well, here's one we're gonna
playing
start
table
with.
asking if they've been assholes on behalf of all of their DMs? Yes, you were. Behave better. Sorry, go ahead. Yes.
You get to decide though, like in character, not just as the DM, because yes, of course, all players are assholes. We know that. The first one: am I the asshole for wanting to turn Irina over to Strahd to protect myself? So they write, so I'm originally from Lamortia, a dread domain where there's no magic and scientists are trying to make a perfect body. Normally they use cadavers for their research, but sometimes they experiment on living people. Their experiments killed my brother, nearly killed me, but I escaped, and through a series of strange events, I ended up in Barovia, which has been relatively nice. There's your first red flag, calling Barovia nice.
Well, compared to Lamortia, it might be.
However, my friend from Barovia and I ended up joining a group and agreeing to help Irina try to outrun Strahd. During our travels, the mist took me to Strahd. He revealed that scientists from my home have somehow tracked me here and have requested permission to come in and find me. Strahd gave me a choice: bring Irina to him by the end of the week, or he'd let the scientists in. After giving me some time to think about, the mist sent me back to the group. I'm still considering the offer. I'd feel bad betraying my friend and Irina, but I refuse to go back to Lamortia. If it comes down to it, I know I'd give up Irene to save myself. Does that make me the asshole from I'm fine, everything's fine?
Yes, you're the asshole. I mean, I didn't need to hear the rest. Do you know what I mean? It's so funny when someone goes, am I an asshole for wanting to sacrifice this person to Strahd? Hear me out. I have 6 paragraphs and the story gets worse as we go. Do you know what I mean? It's like I do tend to also like murder small children. So I'm just like, no, you're terrible. I don't understand why. Let me stop you right there. I don't need the rest. We nailed it all in the opening paragraph. No, it's not okay. You're an asshole.
I feel like I have to recuse myself because I'm a player in this person's party, and my character definitely thinks she's being an asshole. So
you're a player in that one.
I'm a player in this one. Yeah,
nice. We get a lot of these stories from our own players, so one of us kind of has to like step back a little bit from it. All right, yeah, pretty straightforward. I feel like most people who end up in Barovia are probably assholes. The other one that we have, am I the asshole for letting my crazy cousin invade my friend's dreams, since that means I don't have nightmares for the night? So I'm the daughter of a goddess of nightmares. I've had plenty of horrid nightmares for as long as I can remember. Recently, a figure appeared and called herself my cousin. Apparently, she's bound to me, and my goddess trapped her in my nightmares to protect me from going insane. But now my cousin is in my head and talking to me and is very much crazy and also wants me dead. But then she showed me an interest in my traveling companions and started to visit their dreams. Now, I didn't realize it at first, but on the nights that she was with them, my nightmares go away and I can actually sleep. I'm concerned that my cousin bothering them and making them sleep poorly, or maybe trying to drive them mad. But a part of me also really enjoys a good night's sleep. I'm not sure if there's anything I can do to stop her from visiting them. And as long as there's no permanent damage, I'm not sure I care to try. Does that make me an asshole?
I feel like as a blanket reply to maybe all of these, I'll say if you feel like you need to write 3 to 6 paragraphs to justify what you're doing, you're probably an asshole. Do you know what I mean? No one sits down and goes, should I go help my neighbor with their ladder? Hold on, let me just write down the pros and cons of that. I do feel, because, listen, if every single one of these situations is going to be one where we're taking agency away from another person, I'm afraid I'm going to have to decline. Like, you know,
Oh, that's such a good point. And I really appreciate, because I feel every time we do these, somebody right off the rip is like, "Oh yeah," or "Oh no." And I love the pause that you took both times to like really consider to come back with, "Yeah, you know what? You are."
But can I also say what I love about this too is, obviously, Robbie, you and I are American. Steve, you're from New Zealand. We have, I think, a slightly higher bar that you have to eclipse before you become an asshole. I think New Zealanders are just generally nicer, and so you know what I mean. So I'm not surprised. I think that we got like 2 asshole votes out of you. I think I would tend to agree. These are very asshole-ish things, but I was pretty sure no matter which 2 am I the assholes you picked, we would probably get some asshole votes out of Steve
for me, like
here.
they both boil down to, dear Steve, I am trying to snatch agency away from somebody else. Thoughts, you know? And I'm like, I don't like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
for me,
Steve, thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful having you here.
It's been really fun, guys. I like.
Here at the end of the show, this is where we.
No, I was going to say, like, it's been really fun hanging out with the 2 of you all. It's been really good, and like, I really enjoy. This is a really interesting space for me to come into, and everyone's so fun and welcoming, and I could talk about this stuff forever, which is good because that is what I'm planning on doing.
Well, great. It means that if we wanted to bring you back on in the future, you'd probably be up for it. We haven't ruined that for ourselves. But this is where we like to give you a chance to, tell the guests about anything that you have coming up that you'd like to plug, or if there's any place, they can go to find more of you.
I am currently working on an election campaign. It's called Kelly for Michigan. We are trying.
Heck yeah. I'm putting that on my official endorsements.
Trying to get Kelly elected to the Michigan
House of Representatives, District 5.
Something 5. And it's very important that we achieve this because we need, the only way that we're going to turn things around in this country is through participation in your rapidly crumbling democracy. Kelly for Michigan.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Love that.
We appreciate that so much. It's the first time that the guests has used their space for us.
My second item would be trying to encourage people to go and join my Punch Up Live. I'm really fortunate to have been taken on by them. And it's the best place to go to get like free clips. I'll be posting like, I can only post 60 to 90 seconds to Reels, but sometimes I have like a 3.5 minute long bit that only works in its full context. So I'll be throwing those up on my Punch Up, and Punch Up Live is really cool. If you're a stand-up comic, it's where you want your audience to be. It's free. It's not spammy. It really is just, if you like stand-up comedy, it's an entertainment platform that's curated, right? So like every creator who's on there sharing stuff is someone that they has at least kind of gone through a door. So there's not a ton of slop on there, and it's just a nice experience. It's not aggravating. And if you are a fan of a comedian, it's a really good place to get like just by signing up for, like if you came to my page and you signed up, which is all free, and then you become a fan of my page, it goes, oh, you're in Texas, or oh, you're in Michigan, or wherever. And then I can see how many people I have in Michigan, which when you're doing this is critical. And then when you go, okay, I have 100 people in Michigan now, if I book a show there, I can email them. And that's information I can take. Like when you asked before, like, oh, you're going to come to Michigan. If I can go to a comedy club and I can say, look, here are the stats from my Punch Up Live page. I have 1,000 people in Michigan who are fans of mine and who I can directly email. I'm more likely to get that club. I'm more likely to get that booking. So if people want to really support me and help, my Punch Up is the place.
All right, I have it pulled up right now already, and that's what I'll be doing as soon as we're done with the show.
Doing it literally right now.
That's right. As for us, if this isn't your first time listening,
sorry.
Yep. As for us, if this isn't your first time listening, you know what we're about. If this is your first time here besides podcast, we do a ton of homebrew over on our Patreon. It includes over 1,000 magic items, 16 or 17 subclasses at this point, 2 species. The most recent of our subclasses being the Ghostwalker Fighter. And hopefully by the time you hear this, the Curious Critters and Cute Companions, the Traveling Menagerie supplement, should be up as well. You can find us on social media, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, at Cloaks and Capes, TTRPGs, and please leave a comment, a review on this podcast episode, and if we get enough of them, we'll read them on a future episode. So that's going to be it for us, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Callie, you want to quickly do the outro read for us?
The Cloaks and Capes podcast is created by the support of its listeners and generous Patreon donors. Special thanks to our myth makers and legends, Heartslot, Dolvik, Celtic Crow, Darkflux, Capelli, Chili, Gamergal, Tater Thoughts, and Cuda. Views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of its hosts. Editing and production by Aaron Pillen and music provided by Aidan Hageland. If you want to support the Cloaks and Capes podcast, check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/Cloaks and Capes and check us out on Threads and Instagram at Cloaks and Capes, TTRPG.
And just to confirm, he,
Yes.
him for your pronouns.
That is correct.
All right. TikTok, YouTube, Punch Up Live, any place else. At the end, when you do your shout out, we usually put up like a bunch of places that they can find you. Is there any place else you would want people?
No, really just
directed
Instagram
to?
and Punch Up is sort of the
Instagram.
2 big ones at the moment.
All right, excellent. Steve, this was fantastic.
I had
This
fun
was
too.
So much fun.
Really, I mean, I
lot
love
of
talking
fun.
about Dungeons and Dragons. When
Yeah, and I mean for us, I was really excited we got to like step out and talk about like comedy and like the greater
Mhm.
performing
both
arts for a minute
performers?
too. That's so cool.
Our vision for this has always been to just have like not do like an interview with someone, but to have like
Yeah.
just like a conversation and see where it goes. And some people do that a lot better than other people do. But this was fantastic. Like we used about only half of what I had prepared.
I can talk a
so
lot. It's my it's a nervous tick, but yeah, I
Good.
mean, I guess it's handy for podcasts, right? And it's been so
Yeah, it's that feeling of like as a DM where you have a bunch of prep and then you don't use it, so you're like, great, I already have prep for next session.
And I think also like this can just be such a weird experience. Like I am finding navigating, you know, Instagram and playing the head game of not overthinking every thing that happens numerically, you know? And there's a lot, like I just made a post today that I've been working on all week to try and direct people to my Punch Up Live, because one of the things that I really want to be able to avoid as a comic is spamming promotion in my account too much, you know, because it gets exhausting
Mhm.
and I think people lose interest, and to really put a focus on like putting out entertainment stuff first. And so I was like, if I can make one master post that I can pin that just has like a generic trailer in it that points people to my Punch Up and stuff that I can use, then hopefully I can, you know, I just really want to keep the spam down. That Punch Up is really good for that, but not overthinking all of it anyway. It's such a strange head game, and it's such a solo journey. Like you're both lucky that you have each other and that you have someone that you're collaborating with in the space at the moment, so you at least have someone to go, oh my fucking god, like I don't know what this means, look, this number changed, what does that mean, you know? When I went to Gen Con, I was convinced that like everything was going really badly, and then I've had nothing but people telling me, oh no, you're like your Instagram account's doing great. Like if you've managed to go from 3,000 to 25,000 followers in 3.5 months, that's like, that is good. You know, you should be.
You mentioned you
Yeah.
watch Dropout, right? Are you a fan of Game Changers?
I am familiar with Game Changers. So I used to work on, we made panel shows in New Zealand. My whole television career in New Zealand was built around the British panel show concept. 8 out of 10 Cats. I don't know if you're familiar with any of that stuff.
I love Ada. I love Would I Lie to You?
And then
8 out of
America
10
tried to make
Cats.
After Midnight. They didn't quite nail the formula. Game Changer is good.
Mhm.
What interests me about it and what I don't understand is why they don't do it with a live audience. I find it really unusual doing.
So that's actually why I brought it up.
Okay.
They recently did one call. I forget what like the title of it was, but they had on Josh Johnson, they had on John Marco. I forget who the third one was, and they had an
did crowd work.
audience that wasn't like it was a live audience. They were all
I
like
think I saw some clips
handpicked
of
for
it,
having a thing that like and Sam had talked about it like in the little after show they did, where he's like, it's very rare that we have a concept that we think about spinning off into its own thing. But I'm pretty sure
think
that's
it's
happening
really
behind
funny
the
that the
scenes
concept
right now, which feels
but
like
it's funny that like having a studio audience is a concept that they want to spin off with. Because when I watch Game Changer, I go,
well, I think less the audience
that
part,
thing,
but like
the comedians doing crowd
the
work.
crowd work. Yeah, the crowd work thing and bringing comedians.
Yeah,
in